So I think I have close to 1000 hours of combined playtime between the PS4, PS5 and later PC version of Cyberpunk 2077, and yet I'm still finding mechanics or secrets I never even knew before. Call it lame or me not paying attention to things, but this just goes to show how much CD Projekt Red actually managed to add to the game's world. Many of these things might have also changed in post-launch updates, so today we're gonna go over more secret features that literally took me hundreds of hours to discover. Starting with the first one, the GOG, pre-order and the free DLC items all have unique upgrade paths to legendary quality that no other in-game item has. It never occurred to me that this is a possibility until one of you guys pointed it out in one of the recent videos, but you can actually see all of this info simply heading over to the upgrades menu and hovering over these specific items like the Galaxy t-shirt, the Witcher jacket and the Black Unicorn katana. They will all show this text that shows you they require 5 upgrades until they hit epic quality and then 12 for legendary. This is, by the way, without the need of legendary crafting like every other in-game piece that requires that, as well as a crafting spec. They also feature another advantage, which is the fact that they scale to your current level automatically by simply throwing them into your stash and then retrieving them back into your own. So to maximize their armor, and in the case of the katana to make it deal as much damage as possible, here is how I do it. First, craft a rare variant of the desired item using either the 200% efficiency perk for the armor or the field technician for the weapon, like the Black Unicorn. Second of all, make sure you craft them no later than level 38 and keep them in your inventory, otherwise you won't have at least 12 upgrade levels remaining to bump these items up to legendary quality. And the third one, as you get closer to level 50 with V, simply upgrade these the normal way until they themselves hit level 50 and thus legendary quality. And voila, you just got some awesome max armor and max damage katana that will likely go beyond anything that you can get your hands on the normal means. Moving on to number 2, technically speaking, Cyberpunk 2077 has an extra weapon type that is often referred to as Borg weapons. These weapons are unique in the sense that they are classified both as power and tech weapons, so they do take advantage both from the body attribute as well as technical ability. I only came to find this out recently when covering one of the Edgerunners build, but there's only 2 weapons in Cyberpunk which fall into this category currently, and this includes Johnny Silverhand's custom Malorian arms pistol and the RT-46 Buria. If you read the gun's lore entry, especially for the Malorian, it does actually mention it features 3 firing modes, including ricochet, wall penetration, and finally incendiary rounds. The reason this might have gone over my head for so long is because technically the gun still ricochets bullets and doesn't penetrate walls if you sit too close to them or if you're using any slow motion effects. But when you keep your distance a little bit from the wall and just shoot normally without any slow-mo, it actually does pass through these walls. The same goes, by the way, with the Buria, which technically speaking is much better at wall penetration since it can do all of this in slow motion as well, but it won't take advantage of some of the other sources that the Malorian does have. This means that both of these weapons can also take advantage of the tech weapon damage boosts like the Ubercharge and Revamp, and even the one called F the Walls that lets it easier for you to deal more damage when these shots pass through walls. So really awesome that you can create a build around this, and this is probably the optimal way to build it if you want to get the most out of their damage. At number 3, oftentimes you might find a really cool weapon that you want to use, but it ends up having a minimum stat requirement that you didn't invest any points into. The best recent example would be the O5 that you get from one of the Beat on the Brat missions, which has a 20 requirement into body. It recently got a massive buff, by the way, in update 1.6 that it now makes every shot cause a massive explosion, almost making you feel like you're shooting mini nukes every single time. So totally the ultimate gang wiper, but what about that 20 body requirement? Well, what if I told you that it really doesn't matter, and if it does, it's negligible at best? The only thing is kind of taking away if you don't meet that 20 into body is a little bit of the damage, a bit of recoil, and just the fire dot applied on the targets. Even the damage difference between 20 and non-20 variant is unnoticeable since you still deal over 3000 damage per shot. The recoil here that you lose is completely unimportant since the fire rate is way too small for that to even matter, and you likely won't miss the fire damage over time that applies to the targets since you one-shot targets anyway, even on the high difficulty. So this makes it possible for you to implement it in a build even though it might not use any bit of body, and still use it successfully, and it's quite satisfying to use against large groups of enemies. At number 4, the fact that you can shoot grenades in mid-air shouldn't be as big of a surprise to most people. You might have even triggered the achievement when accidentally shooting one mid-air after an enemy threw it. But I recently played around with a grenade trick shot build, and to my surprise, it is quite literally insane. The whole premise behind it is that you'll want to throw your own grenades and then shoot them mid-air to wipe out every single enemy that might be in front of you. You can further combine this with a perk called Jackpot to make grenades capable of critical hitting, and maybe even further buff grenade damage in the engineering and crafting skill trees. This way, you'll one-shot almost any group of enemies and at the very least severely damage any boss or otherwise tankier variant. But you can go a step beyond that and use it tactically against enemies behind covers. Oftentimes you might not be on the higher ground, so why not bolt a grenade and then shoot it at the right time so that it explodes over the enemy's head. Or when you want to clear a corner, have the grenade shot handle the enemies behind the cover for you, which to me seems very satisfying. This has seriously become one of my favorite ways to play Cyberpunk right now. It's a lot of fun and you should definitely try it if you haven't already. You can also combine it with other types of grenades and throwables like Molotovs, toxic grenades, EMPs, pretty much everything. There's lots of liberties when it comes to playing it that way. At number 5, have you ever gotten frustrated by Cyberpsychos or the Max Tac for always dodging your bullets so easily? It's almost like you can unload a full clip and still have almost none of these shots hit the target as you get taunted like you just got out of the Matrix. Well, the aforementioned ricochet bullets I talked about earlier can actually help a ton in this situation and are much better at hitting these pesky targets compared to shooting at them directly. Here's a comparison with me using the entire 100 magazine of a defender and barely managing to scratch this Cyberpsycho right here, yet shooting these bullets at the ground and then ricocheting them into his body makes almost every single shot connect and basically wipe him out in seconds. It's likely because these bullets ricocheting off surfaces are more unpredictable, which is why I believe makes the AI not that great at, well, dodging them in that case, but it's totally fun and it's totally a much better solution to take them down, especially if you tend to be overwhelmed when you're at 4 stars or when you have to take down a particularly difficult Cyberpsycho. Plus, you can take advantage of extra ricochet perks and the ballistic processor to further power up ricochet shots and make them deal more damage, maybe even compared to your regular blasts. But moving on to number 6, you can actually recreate the same V from the old trailers and the first gameplay reveal, at the very least for the female variant. All you have to do is to simply select the 20-second options for each of the face parts in the character creator, including the eyes, the nose, jaw, mouth, and ears, and then just match the cyberwear and the makeup colors to make her look like in the first gameplay. This was one of my favorite looks, by the way. I was always searching for it, and it was literally until a few days ago that I finally found out that's possible. This doesn't work, unfortunately, for male V so far, as there doesn't seem to be anything past number 21 for the face selectors, but hopefully CD Projekt Red will add them in the future and bring us that much closer to the trailer variant. There is something close over there in the presets, but nowhere near as good looking and as close as the female variant. Coming up to number 7, it's not a big deal, but if you want to pull off cool tricks, especially when jumping from very high points and don't want to die when you fall, you can completely break off fall damage using any shotgun with a very high recoil, or any weapon for that matter with a high enough recoil. The best one for that obviously would be the newly added Guts shotgun from update 1.6, since that pretty much ensures that happens every single time. Doesn't really matter from how far high up you jump, you're always going to be able to pull that off as long as you time your shots properly right as you're about to hit the ground. And finally, coming up to number 8, you can actually get a lot of legendary crafting specs and even legendary, in this case, knives from an animals vendor right here on this side of the map. You basically reach and open this location during one of the beat on the bread fighting missions. All you have to do is to make sure that you don't enter any conflict with any of these, well, enemies around this facility, because otherwise it's going to prohibit access to this vendor. But if you go at him, you're gonna notice that there's a lot of these melee legendary crafting specs, including for some of these knives. If you, for example, want to go with a knife build, since it's been made so much more powerful in update 1.6, it's one of the best vendors, at least I personally found so far after the new patch. You can also find a legendary neurotoxin. I'm pretty sure you can find this at other vendors too, but particularly for me, this was the only one that constantly spawned it right from the get-go, so you can also get it right away. But this is it with some of the secrets. Let me know down below if you have any more that you took a long time to discover, like how I just did. Or maybe if there's anything else that nobody else knows of and you found it, I would definitely like to see it in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.